Okay, guys, some interesting information here. I was gonna make a video on this, and I just decided, you know what, this kind of deserves a live stream because I don't know. There's some pretty big updates going on, and I figured some of you might actually want to like log in and like talk about it a little bit. So I'll give you the basics on it. The basics is Wizards of the Coast, literally just not exactly Wizards of the Coast, but Mark Rosewater, who is the head designer of Wizards of the Coast. He actually just put a update out there on his blog called Blogatog, and he actually talked directly about making better than reserve list cards. And I was kind of stunned when I saw this. There's a bit of a history. Let me quickly walk you guys through the history. If any of you, this is the first time you saw this subject. Unhinged Magi put out a video just a little bit ago where we were talking about the reserve list and like what would constitute a valid reason for a lawsuit and not. We made this video and we were about to put it out there. And then very quickly afterwards, Dan and I were talking about it. And I was like, Dan, there's some things I got to show you. And so I sat him down and I was telling him about the whole spirit of the list and the reasons why they can't just strictly do better cards. And because this is something I've been familiar with for a while. And I was showing him these examples, and we saw this card called Moodvale Regent, which was actually, as we look closer, we're like, wait a minute, that's a better card than the Rock of Kier Ridges. And so like we were like, oh my gosh, this is actually pretty significant. So we made another video, and we put out those two videos on the same day. I got some people in here, Kevin Massey and Chicago Rolo. How's it going, everybody? Hello to Hawaii also. So anyways, we made that video and we put that out, and we were showing that like, oh my gosh, there's this thing Moonvale Regent that just happened. And so that kind of sparked a bunch of people talking. There's been some other videos back and forth with other YouTubers, and we made a follow-up video and we talked about some of those other YouTube channels that actually made videos on this topic as well. And on our follow-up video, which I believe is the last one that we actually put live, and somebody asked me in the comments, because I was responding to people in the comments, someone asked me like, wait a minute, Edwin, have you ever gone back to that Mark Rosewater blog and asked him about this whole Moonvale Regent thing? And I told the guy, like, I haven't, because like I'm trying to just kind of report the information on what's going on. I'm not wanting to so much get myself involved in it so much. I'm just like, here's some information that's going on. I just want you guys to be aware of it. And so then he went and he actually put a post on Rosewater's blog, and Mark Rosewater responded to him. And the response honestly shocks me, honestly. So let me switch screens here and see if I can just like show you what the deal is here. I'll see, I'll turn this off. Okay. So first, this is one of Mark Rosewater's older blogs where somebody directly asked him, could R&D print a card similar to one on the reserve list, except with a higher power and toughness for the same converted mana cost? Now, this is specifically asking about, can they do or better? And Rosewater said, technically we can. The larger issue is we are breaking the spirit of the reserve list, and it would vary based on the card in question. So what Rosewater did previous is he actually was very clear that like, okay, technically to the letter of how it's written, they can, and that's what we've been saying. But the reserve list is more than just that one post. It's like every other post that they've done, because the whole a promissory estoppel lawsuit would not be like, oh, you made this one statement. It's like, no. Anytime Wizards of the Coast makes statements along the reserve list in those cards, everything that they say in those statements can become relevant if they're publicly made statements and they're provable that they made it and they did it with full knowledge of the secondary market. So the reserve list topic is not narrowed down to that one post. It's kind of all of it. And there's been other places where they like the picture I just showed you, where they very clearly spoke that they're not going to violate the spirit of the reserve list, which means like killing secondary market cards. But get this, guys. This is how Mark Rosewater responded to that other post just recently. So let's go back to that screen. And now this is a live post. This isn't a picture of it. I'm showing you guys here. So Dark Elder said, "Hi. Considering what you posted on the Fork Reverberate issue," and then he gives them a reference to the ID, "how did the Rock of Care Ridges versus Moonveil Regent happen? I know it's not identical, but even strictly better. A better flyer for 3/3 for 3 colorless, 1 red, without negative effects, in the spirit of the reserve list." So the guy asked the question fantastically. He was nailing the point here. That should have been caught prior to releasing the Moonveil Regent, right? And Rosewater says, "The reserve list doesn't mean we can't make better cards than cards on the reserve list. The Fork Reverberate is about making an identical card." Well, hold on. Mark, you just said this previously. Technically we can. The larger issue was breaking the spirit of the reserve list. And so where's the verbiage about spirit? It's gone. It's not in there. So that's kind of a glaring omission. Let me shrink this window down so you can see both at the same time here. I don't completely know what to make of this, you guys, because I mean, this is like honestly kind of so crazy in my opinion that he's actually gonna like completely go back and lean a different direction than what he was leaning before. This is in fact a reversal of Wizards of the Coast's previous position on the reserve list. It literally is. They spent a long time, you guys, it's not just these blog posts. They spent a long time talking about how they're not going to make better cards and that breaks the spirit. And when you go back to the original reason that the reserve list was even made, it was like, it was obvious that they weren't going to make better cards. It would have undermined the entire reason for doing it. So now it's 25 years later, and now they're like, he is basically dropped that in the spirit of, and just directly said, hey, that doesn't mean we can't make better cards. Okay, so I want to be clear here. This isn't an issue about Moonveil Regent. Some people got very confused in the comments. This has nothing to do with Moonveil Regent. Nobody cares about Moonveil Regent. This has everything to do with, is Wizards of the Coast setting a precedent to allow them to reprint the bigger cards on the reserve of the same, namely dual lands, and not, suffer the effects of a lawsuit? Are they building up the ability to do that and legally protect themselves? That has always been what we're pointing to as the main point. It's nothing to do with Rock. No one cares about Rock. And so I was making the point in previous videos, correctly so, by the way, that they previously didn't, because it violated the original intent, that they now call Spirit of the Reserve List, and now they have like dropped that. It's like not there. In fact, they're directly saying like, hey, this, and he's sticking to what is listed as like just the current definition of reserve list, as if the lawsuit wouldn't be based on like any declaration or statement that they've made before, which isn't the case. So what this basically means, you guys, is this basically means they are pushing that forward. They are basically taking that risk. I would say they're shoving some chips onto the table, possibly taking a risk of a lawsuit. Now, having said that, a lawsuit won't happen unless the market actually sells off. And so at this point, it's all about watching what the secondary market does. It's not about Edwin's opinion. It's not about Rudy's opinion. It's not about anyone specific. It's about, do the collective holders of reserve list cards decide to hold on to those cards, or do they decide to start selling them on the market? It's all based on that, which I think is extremely interesting here. So let me look at some of these comments here. Now that I've kind of like laid out what the basics of it is, I'll chat with you guys a little bit. So I already said hi to Kevin, Chicago Rolo, Alan, hello everybody. Vintage Magic Collector, Lou Dukes, Jonathan Taylor's on there. Snow-covered duels really could be a thing then. Actually, yeah, that's kind of exactly the point here. Wizards of the Coast dropping the entire thing about Spirit of the List does open up the kind of possibility of snow-covered dual lands. That's exactly what that does, actually. So, are people going to freak out about that? I don't know. And by the way, somebody actually put a comment in one of my last videos about Edwin, like, says the sky is falling. You guys, this isn't a Chicken Little moment. I'm not saying the sky is falling. What I'm telling you is they opened the door to something, and either they can now walk through that door and take even a larger risk, or the market can, even at this moment, begin selling off and maybe trigger a lawsuit. So it's kind of like Wizards has taken the next step, and now we see how things adjust. And this is very interesting, actually, because if there's no market sell-off, there's going to be no lawsuit. If there is a market sell-off, there could be a lawsuit. And is anybody going to do it? That's the question. So it's not the sky's falling. It's like, okay, this is interesting. Let's all watch this and see where this actually goes. Okay, so Jonathan Taylor, yeah, I saw that. And so Mark Rosewater lost his darn mind. Yep. And Dina Hill, I don't know what VSF Tech is. Morrow's gone crazy. Honestly, yeah, I kind of feel like that was a crazy statement. Either I hope for Mark's case that was pre-planned and Wizards knew what they were doing and that was intentional. Because if I was a Wizards of the Coast lawyer, I would be knocking on Mark's door and saying, Mr. Rosewater, we need to have a conversation. Okay, so evening here in the UK. No Mr. Open Boosters today. No, Open Boosters is doing Christmas family stuff. And actually I am too. But this topic opened up and I figured it was worth making a quick live stream video and chatting with you guys about it. Let's see. So I'm getting caught up here. Oh gosh, there's comments coming in fast. Let me try to get caught up here, guys. They don't believe in the spirits. They're atheists. If dual lands get reprinted in some form, then where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, that's possible, you guys. Them reprinting dual lands just definitely became more possible. Let's just move on. Even Horizon. So the reason why this isn't like a just blow this off type of topic is because a reserve list break and a lawsuit could be so large the damages could bankrupt Wizards of the Coast. That's on one end of the spectrum. On the total other end of the spectrum, it happens, there is no reaction, there's no market sell-off, nobody sues, and all of a sudden new players can finally buy old reserve list cards. So that's the spectrum you're working in. So is this a nothing burger? No, guys, this is actually pretty significant. Those two maximums is I don't know, worthy of making a live stream at the very least, right? I feel like they'll just do a collector's edition too in the form of Secret Lair. Yeah, maybe. That's possible, I guess. Magic is the greatest game ever made. I agree. Class action in the making right here. It's possible. It is possible. It depends on how the market reacts. Rosewater doesn't have a clue. He should have been dismissed a decade ago. If I was Wizards, I would be very nervous about what he just said, honestly. Moxbox asked for a recap. That's a bit of a long recap. I'll just quickly say, please watch the last several videos, the last like 3 videos that Unhinged Magi put out. We made a reserve list video talking about a lawsuit, and then we realized that they might have just broke it, and we made a video about that. And then people reacted, more videos were made, and we made videos in response to those. So that'll catch you up if you watch those last 3 videos. Leave the magic stuff behind, work on a brighter future. I don't really understand what that means. I love that you guys are pushing the reserve list being taken down, something that should have happened a long time ago. Actually, you know what? We've been planning on releasing another video. I don't want to spoil it too much, but Dan and I actually want the reserve list to come down. And we have a whole video we already recorded. I just haven't edited and put it up. So yeah, maybe I'll get that edited and put up today. A lot of reserve cards aren't that great. That's true. And I think it would matter if they made a new version of some of them. A lot of the cards are junk on the reserve list for sure. It's been a standing question. If they printed any of them in better form, would that break faith is the question. And no one for sure knew that answer, right? Nice try, Edwin. You can't make me sell my duels. You guys, I'm not selling my duels either. So I advise all of you guys to look at this topic and understand what it is and then make your own decisions. I'm literally not trying to make you guys either sell your cards or keep your cards. I'm not pushing either direction. I'm telling you about something that happened, and I'll tell you what I'm doing with my cards, but that doesn't mean that should be what you do with your cards. And by the way, I'm not the guy that's going to be buying your reserve list cards, most likely, because I've already got almost all of my cards, and unless they get really cheap and it's worth it for me to sell other assets and run in and buy them, I'm probably not going to be buying them. Others might. I mean, Dan might. Rudy probably would, right? So Brandon Derringer said a lot of reserve cards aren't that great. Oh, I think I already read that. Sorry. Are you for or against something like this? Ozzy is asking here. I want to answer that as directly as I can. I want players to have cards. I want people to be competitive in formats. Since I previously believed they would never break the reserve list, is why I was an advocate for proxies all those years, because I wanted people to meet me at an even playing level. If the reserve list is capable of breaking without trashing values, that would be great. I would love that, and I hope we see that, actually. So I hope that's the most clear answer I can give you about my take on it. Cinder Shadow said, "Dear God, it is done." I know, right? I know. So, hey, how's it going, Cinder Shadow? By the way, he's one of the channels that was talking about this. Okay, Moxbox saw them all. I'm almost caught up in the comments here, and then I'll show you guys something else here. I wonder how much clout Morrow has in the scheme of the company and Hasbro. That's a good question. I suspect it's pretty large. He's a very well-known public figure. He's extremely familiar with the game. He's spoken about the reserve list for a long time. He's been there since 1999, and he's been head designer, I think, that entire time. He's probably the most influential person besides the people that are just shoving the money around on the lawyers. I would imagine. I can't say that for sure, but I would imagine that. Okay. You think people are now moving into MetaZoo and Flesh and Blood? And when you say people, you got to separate that out. I do think there was investors that were moving into Flesh and Blood and MetaZoo. I think the investors are now less interested in Flesh and Blood because of like some mistakes that Flesh and Blood has made for the investors. So investors, I think, are going into MetaZoo. I think it's now more just players that are doing Flesh and Blood, which, by the way, I've got nearly complete sets of every Flesh and Blood set out, from Welcome to Wrath all the way to Tales of Aria. So I'm building up my player thing exactly like I did for Magic. So, but yeah, I think players are going into both of them. Investors at this point now are mostly just going into MetaZoo, I think. I think collectors will only care if the Power 9 or the High reserve list will be printed. That's a valid opinion, Kevin. That's totally possible that is how people might look at it. But again, I want to stress, this isn't based on Edwin's opinion. This is based on how the market reacts. So if the holders of those cards panic and sell off, that will be the case. If they don't, then that's also the case, right? So by the way, let me make this main video full size again, since you guys have now seen that. Okay, let's see, where did I go? Hey, Edwin, Merry Christmas to you too, Barbosa. And hey, hi from Brazil, that's cool. Love the content, Edwin, thank you. As long as they print them in the gross new borders and are not beautiful, the classic frames, I totally agree. I hope they do reprint them. No one with taste will buy them. My magic brother, how's it going, Heath? Good to see you. I am good. How are you today? I'm doing great. Thanks, Cinder Shadow. The game of MetaZoo sucks. I've never played MetaZoo. I know nothing about the game of MetaZoo. I've played a lot of Flesh and Blood, and I really like the game of Flesh and Blood quite a bit. Never going to quit Magic, but I really like Flesh and Blood as a game, for sure. That's why I've like fleshed out all like sets. I literally own almost every card, and I can build almost any deck from Flesh and Blood. And I did that intentionally because I like the game. Mr. Slick says the game of MetaZoo sucks. Okay, I can't tell you for a fact that I have left Magic and went to MetaZoo. Okay. I've played in the MetaZoo tournament, and the whole time I was like, why aren't we just playing Magic? I've felt like that with other games as well. I know you guys are buying a lot of Flesh and Blood. Is this a speculation, or do you believe in Flesh and Blood will stay around? Great question. I'm buying Flesh and Blood to get play cards. I have a little bit of sealed product that I'm underwater on now, and I'll just probably sit on for like a really long time. So I've got a little bit of speculation in Flesh and Blood, but I've put a lot of money into buying playable cards. So in fact, I could grab my binder over here. So for me, it's mostly play, a little less speculation. Dan barely plays it. He's not even has like 1 or 2 decks made, but he has a lot of it. He's speculated on sealed products. So we're in different camps when it comes to Flesh and Blood. Flesh and Blood is reported doing better in sales. November, Magic beat it out as reported TCG player. That's interesting. Nobody plays MetaZoo. Yeah, not that I hear about, but you know, I'm not in that realm, so I'm not going to speak about that, but it doesn't seem like it. The amount of variance is getting outrageous to a point where there's so many different card treatments, nothing is special. They have just focused on greed now. It does seem like that with Wizards of the Coast. I totally agree. Many people play MetaZoo. We doing any live games coming up soon? Yeah, probably during this break, I'm sure. Not at this exact second. This is mostly just to get this message out. I feel Crimson Vow is very bomb heavy. Having drafted it last night, the set feels like it could have been spent a bit more under R&D. That's been one of my main gripes for Wizard of the Coast for a while. Okay, so everybody's talking about MetaZoo and Flesh and Blood. I want to get back to the reserve list topic here. Okay, so what is Edwin doing? What am I doing? And let me show you guys, actually. Let me go to my down camera here. Okay, so these are some of my cards. No, I'm not trying to flex on you guys. I'm trying to show you that, is Edwin invested in Magic the Gathering? Yes, I am. Is Edwin going to sell Magic the Gathering? Am I selling any of these cards? And this, by the way, represents like 2 entire full sets of dual lands, 80 of them. And then there's Collector's Edition, Power 9. Then here's real Power 9, like Unlimited and Beta and all that. So, okay. Am I holding on to my cards? Yes, I am. Absolutely. I am not selling these cards. Not selling any of them, honestly. So, these cards that I'm showing you, all my reserve list cards, I'm personally not going to sell them. I'm not going to get spooked out of the reserve list. Because the worst case scenario for me is that there's a huge value drop and then nobody sues, and then all this value that I had in my cards is lost. It's possible that if there's a value drop, there could be a lawsuit, and then I could be paid for the value that was like stolen, lost, whatever in my cards. In which case I still get to have the cards, and now I actually have the cash for it. It's also possible that there is no value drop in the reserve list, which would actually be great, because like I don't want my card values to get tanked, but I do want people to actually have access to cards. So that would be great, actually, if there is no value loss in reserve list cards. The thing that I can tell you guys to watch for, the thing you want to keep your eyes on, is you want to keep focused on the secondary market. You want to watch the supply of cards. That is what you need to be focused on right now. If you're looking online and cards just start flowing into the markets, right? And all of these people selling start bidding with each other and the prices start coming down, and stores are pulling down their buy lists because they don't want to buy anymore and they're trying to get rid of inventory before it drops. If you start seeing those kinds of things happen, and it takes time because individuals all need to make that decision. Are they going to sell or are they going to keep? What do they think about this? Do they think this is meaningless? All those decisions have to be made, and each individual makes those decisions. So watch the market for your next step information. What am I doing? I'm not selling my cards. What is Dan doing? I don't believe he's selling his cards. I don't believe Rudy's selling his cards. I don't think any of the people that I know that have big cards are like, oh God, oh God, oh God, and then running out there and like selling their cards. I don't think any of us are doing that. But that doesn't mean that nobody will. That doesn't mean that enough of them won't come into the market to start dropping prices. So you just got to watch. But still, I mean, it is honestly amazing. I cannot believe that he did this reversal, came right out and said, hey man, we can go reprint better than reserve list cards. Completely dropped all of the verbiage about spirit of the list and things like that. That's just gone. Just not in there anymore. I'm shocked about that. So I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you guys. It's kind of incredible. I didn't expect them to do that. I hope Wizards of the Coast did the research. I hope this was intentional. And the best case scenario that I can hope for, honestly, the best case scenario is that they do this. The reserve list does eventually completely break. The secondary market cards on values on the original cards doesn't go down at all. And then new players get a chance to own these old cards. And then vintage and legacy formats pick back up again. That would be awesome. In my mind, that is the absolute best case scenario. Because I'll tell you what, guys, these newer formats, the newer formats, in my opinion, are nothing compared to the quality of the old original formats. And I have a metric for that. My metric for that is based on the number of competitive decks in the top 2 tiers. That is how I measure a format. When you look at a format and any one of like 30 decks can win the tournament and be in the top 16, or maybe like in the cards, like the decks that almost crack that top 16, like they might hit their kryptonite kind of deck, but they could go all the way. And like, that's like the tier 2 decks. And you're talking like 200, 300 deck types and all the archetypes are represented. That is a good format. That's a format that I want to play. And that's exactly what old school original Magic formats are. When you start looking at the old school format, the middle school format, there's one called like Alpha 2 Alliances that's really cool. Those formats have that kind of balance, and that's exactly why I like them so much. And if they broke the reserve list, then people could actually try those formats and they could see how cool they actually are. So anyways, that's the update. That's the take. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast, apparently that whole thing about Spirit of the List, which basically means don't kill secondary market prices, they seem to have dropped it. Okay, so here we go. Let's watch and let's see where this actually goes, basically. Let's see, there's a bunch of comments in here. I think that's probably good for the video now. I might end the stream, but then continue chatting with you guys just a little bit longer. But I don't know if it makes necessarily good stream content. So there we go. You guys watch for another video coming out today. I'll probably release that other video where Dan and I are talking about why we want the reserve list to actually break and how great we think it would actually be. I'll release that video later today. And if any other happenings come up, I might even do another quick live stream today. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all of you. And yeah, just have a great time. Bye.